There is a reason people feel uncomfortable around mirrors at night. Not fear exactly. Not at first. Just a quiet unease. A subtle sense that something about the reflection is delayed. Not in movement, but in presence. As if the version of you inside the glass is thinking, not just reflecting. Now imagine this. It is late. The world outside is silent. No traffic, no voices, no distractions. Just you and a mirror. You check the time. It is exactly midnight. And for a moment, you hesitate. Because somewhere, deep in human history, across cultures that never touched, never spoke, never shared beliefs, there exists the same warning. Do not look into a mirror at midnight. Before we go any further, if you're drawn to stories that blur the line between folklore and reality, between psychology and something far darker, make sure you're subscribed to the Grim Tapes. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a pattern. And once you recognize it, you might start seeing things differently. Tonight, we are uncovering something rarely discussed openly. The Antumbral Rite. A ritual so subtle, most people perform it without even realizing it. A ritual that doesn't summon something from the outside, but invites something to emerge from within. To understand it, we need to go back. Not to one place, but to many. Ancient Slavic villages, where mirrors were covered the moment someone died, not out of respect, but out of fear. The belief was simple. A mirror left uncovered could trap the soul, or worse, allow something else to take its place. Victorian England, where households followed strict rules about reflective surfaces during the witching hour. Diaries from the era describe incidents of individuals who claimed their reflections did not mimic them perfectly. A blink out of sync. A smile that lingered too long. A face that seemed to observe, rather than obey. Even older traditions, scattered across different continents, all pointing toward the same unsettling idea. A mirror is not just a surface. It is a threshold. And thresholds are meant to be crossed. But what exactly is waiting on the other side? This is where the concept of the antumbral shadow begins. Unlike ordinary shadows, which depend on light, the antumbral shadow exists where light fails to define boundaries. It is not cast. It is not created by an object blocking illumination. It is something else entirely. Something independent. Something that does not belong to the physical world, yet appears through it. Descriptions vary, but the core idea remains disturbingly consistent. The antumbral shadow is not separate from you. It is you. Or at least, it wants to be. According to obscure occult texts and fragmented folklore, the Antumbral Rite is not about summoning a spirit. It is about weakening the boundary between identity and perception. At midnight, when the human mind is at its most vulnerable, caught between exhaustion and awareness, something shifts. Your brain begins to process reality differently. Sensory input dulls. Peripheral vision becomes unreliable. And most importantly, your sense of self begins to loosen. There is a well-documented psychological phenomenon known as the Troxler effect. If you fix your gaze on a single point for long enough, especially in low light, your brain starts to erase details that remain static. Edges blur. Colors fade. Entire parts of your visual field can disappear without you even noticing. Now imagine applying that to your own face. You stand in front of a mirror. The room is dim. You focus on your reflection. You don't move. You don't blink more than necessary. Minutes pass. At first, nothing happens. Then, slowly, something changes. Your features begin to distort. Not dramatically. Not like in movies. Subtle changes. Your eyes seem deeper. Your skin tone shifts slightly. Your expression feels unfamiliar, even though you haven't moved. This is where most people look away. Instinct takes over. But the Antumbral Rite requires you to continue. Because according to the folklore, this is the moment the threshold opens. The ego, your sense of identity, begins to dissolve under sensory deprivation. The brain, desperate to interpret incomplete information, starts generating alternatives. Faces morph, expressions change. And within that instability, something else can emerge. Ancient texts describe it as an invitation. Not a forceful entry. Not possession in the traditional sense. An exchange. The longer you stare, the weaker your claim over your own reflection becomes. And then, there are the accounts. People who claim they saw their reflection move independently. Not dramatically. Just a slight delay. A blink that came a fraction of a second too late. A smile that appeared without intent. Others described something more disturbing. The feeling that the reflection was watching them, with curiosity. As if it was learning. Studying. Waiting. There is a pattern in these stories. A progression. First comes distortion. Then unfamiliarity. Then recognition. Not of yourself, but of something pretending to be you. And finally, the moment where you realize that whatever is in the mirror is no longer copying you. It is anticipating you. At this stage, folklore becomes very clear. You must look away. Immediately. Because if you don't, the roles begin to reverse. The idea is not that something steps out of the mirror. It is that you stop being the original. Your reflection becomes the reference point. And you become the imitation. Skeptics argue this is purely psychological. A result of prolonged staring, low light conditions, and cognitive fatigue. And they are not wrong. Every part of the experience can be explained through known neurological processes. But that does not explain the consistency. The same sequence. The same sensations. The same descriptions across different cultures, different time periods, and people who had no knowledge of each other's experiences. So the question becomes, is this just how the human brain breaks down under certain conditions? Or is it revealing something that is always there, but usually hidden? Because here's the part most people ignore. You don't need a ritual to experience this. You've already felt it. That brief moment when you look into a mirror at night and something feels off. When your own reflection doesn't feel entirely like you. When your eyes seem unfamiliar. When you look away, just a little too quickly. What if that instinct isn't fear of the dark? What if it's recognition? And what if the Antumbral Rite isn't something you perform, but something you interrupt every time you look away? Now consider this carefully. If the boundary between you and your reflection can weaken, even slightly, then what exactly defines which version is real? And more importantly, what happens if one day, you hesitate just a little too long before looking away? Think about it. Have you ever stared into a mirror in complete silence, long enough to feel uncomfortable? Did your reflection ever seem different? Not obviously. Not enough to prove anything. But enough to make you question it? And if you had stayed just a few seconds longer, what do you think you would have seen? Let me know in the comments. Because the most unsettling part of this entire subject is not the folklore, or the psychology, or even the possibility that something might be waiting on the other side of the glass. It's the idea that the only thing stopping it is your decision to stop looking. If you found this unsettling, make sure you're subscribed to the Grim Tapes for more deep investigations into the unknown. Leave a like if this made you think, and share your own experiences below. Because sometimes, the most disturbing truths aren't the ones we discover. They're the ones we almost remember.